Stop memorizing. You'll see how GP1b9 and GP2b3A actually work, why ADP matters, and where the drug targets live. Stay to the end for a quick deep dive that makes it stick. Let's go. Hi. I'm a platelet. I'm a tiny piece broken off from a megakaryocyte in the bone marrow. I have mitochondria inside me. But I don't have a nucleus. Let's quickly remember the last video. When a blood vessel gets injured, the body first plugs the hole. Next, it strengthens that plug and makes it solid. And after the vessel heals, it cleans up the extra clot. I'm a platelet, and I do my biggest job in that very first, plug the hole, step. Quick quiz. When a blood vessel gets injured, what happens first? Correct. The body plugs the hole first. One clear morning, a blood vessel gets a small injury. Now the collagen that was hidden under the wall becomes visible. This is collagen exposure. It's like the body is saying, hey, this spot is injured. I'm pulled toward that signal. In other words, it triggers primary hemostasis. At the same time, tissue factor appears in the tissues outside the injury. That is a strong signal that pushes coagulation forward. In other words, it triggers secondary hemostasis. With the tissue factor signal, the flow moves toward thrombin, and then fibrin. So here's the key idea. Collagen exposure triggers primary hemostasis, and tissue factor triggers secondary hemostasis. When I arrive at the injury site, the first thing I do is look for a place to hold on. The key tool for that is GP1b9. But I can't stick to the vessel wall by myself. I need von Willebrand factor to help. GP1b9 with von Willebrand factor. This is platelet adhesion. It's the first stick set. Quiz. If GP1b9 has a problem, what happens next? Correct. It can't grab von Willebrand factor, so platelet adhesion becomes weak. That is Bernard-Soulier syndrome. Once I'm stuck, the next step is to call more platelets and form a group. The key tool for that is GP2b3A. This hand grabs fibrinogen. GP2b3A with fibrinogen. This is platelet aggregation. Platelets become a clump because fibrinogen acts like a bridge between them. If GP2b3A has a problem, it can't grab fibrinogen, so platelet aggregation becomes weak. That is Glanzmann thrombasthenia. And here's the drug that targets this step. GP2b3A inhibitors Abciximab, Eptifibatide, Tirofiban. These drugs block the hand-linking step. So platelet aggregation becomes weaker. Quiz. Say one GP2b3A inhibitor out loud. Good job. Abciximab. Or Eptifibatide. Or Tirofiban. But a few platelets are not enough. So I open a pocket. That pocket is dense granules. Only remember these contents. ADP, calcium 2+, serotonin. The most important one is ADP. Dense granules have ADP. ADP is like a backup bell. When ADP is released, it signals through P2Y12, and platelet activation and platelet aggregation become stronger. If dense granules are low, that is storage pool disease. Then bleeding becomes easier. And here is the drug that targets this step, P2Y12 inhibitors Clopidogrel, Prasugrel, Ticagrelor. These drugs block the ADP signal, so platelet activation and platelet aggregation become weaker. Quiz. Say one P2Y12 inhibitor out loud. Good. Clopidogrel, Prasugrel, Ticagrelor. In which situation are P2Y12 inhibitors commonly used? Correct. They are commonly used to block the ADP signal and weaken platelet activation and platelet aggregation, often after a heart artery stent procedure. I have one more pocket, too. It's called alpha granules. We won't use a long list. Just remember 5 key items. Von Willebrand factor, Fibrinogen, factor 5, PF4, PDGF. These are mostly found in the plasma in everyday life. But they are also stored inside the platelet. So a platelet is not just a sticky particle. It's more like a tiny ambulance that brings useful materials to the injury site. One item here is asked about a lot, PF4. PF4 can bind to heparin and form a PF4 heparin complex. Sometimes the body treats that complex like a foreign thing and makes IgG. That IgG can strongly activate platelets. So platelets get used up, and the platelet count can drop. This is called Thrombocytopenia. At the same time, thrombosis can become more likely. This situation is called HIP. Heparin-induced thrombocytopenia. Before we move on, lock this in. Remember, 1 foot to stick, 2 hands to link. For everyone who stayed to the end, one more step, nice and smooth. A moment ago, the platelets held hands and made a clump. At that time, the bridge that links hands is fibrinogen. GP2B3A with fibrinogen. Fibrinogen slides between platelet and makes a bridge. But a bridge alone can still feel a little shaky. So another helper arrives at the scene, thrombin. Thrombin uses fibrinogen as the material and makes fibrin. Fibrin is the mesh. It gently covers the bridge, like a soft blanket, and holds the platelet plug in place. So this is enough to remember. In primary hemostasis, fibrinogen acts like a bridge for aggregation. In secondary hemostasis, fibrin acts like a mesh for stabilization. And fibrinogen is the material for fibrin. Nice work, this is the foundation. In the next video, we'll build secondary hemostasis step by step, then use that framework to make pharmacology finally click. If this was useful, like and subscribe, and keep going with me. See you in the next video.
For quick, powerful reviews, this is the only channel. Don't forget to subscribe.